Let's get started. All righty. Wonderful. Well, welcome to Museum Minds Collaborative. You're here, you're in the right place. Lots and lots of fun today. We have plenty of room for questions, comments, networking, hits and misses today for everybody to contribute, to do a bit of a roundtable so that we can kind of hear about everybody's museum experiences, what's going on, and get to know each other a little bit, which is a lot of fun. So the whole hour today is devoted to that, whether it is chatting about hits and misses or questions that you might have. And I do have some here in case we need them. And I did talk to a few of you in advance, so I'm hoping that you also will be ready to share as well. So you'll see here in the beginning, go ahead and rename yourself when you come on, just to put your museum name on there so we know who you are and where you're from as we get started. So let's see. Just to let everybody know, we are going to record the call. So Rainey's going to go ahead and press record, and you're probably going to get a little notification that says this call is now being recorded. Do you want to leave? And of course, you're going to say no. Because it's so fun to be here. And which Rainey, I didn't get the notification. Did everybody else?
I pushed it earlier.
Okay, good.
I really didn't want to forget this time.
Okay, good. Because we did have a little snafu last time and it didn't record. Oh. Do you see your little red dot up there? I'm all paranoid now. Good, fantastic, Amanda. Thank you for that. So we do record this session. So if for any reason you have to leave early, I know that one or two folks had said they had to leave a little bit early today. And the beauty of this also is, though we love it for you always to be here and to contribute to the conversation, but if in the future there is a date and a topic that you want to hear about, make sure that you register. The only people who get the recording are those who register. So we don't just send it out to the entire mailing list. We only send it out to those who register because we know that those are the people who are actually interested in the topic that we're going to be chatting about. But I don't want to rely too heavily on that, because if nobody's here, then there's not great conversation. So plan to attend first. And if for some reason you win the lottery and you're ready to go to Bora Bora, we will send you the recording. And that is okay. So always plan to come and contribute. So this is Museum Minds. How many people, with a raise of hands, how many is your first time here at Museum Minds? Okay, I see at least one person, two people that are new. Fantastic. Three people that are new. Kat, hello. Yay. Kat is not a newbie to my Zoom screen, though she is new to Museum Minds with her friends from Akron Children's Museum. So what is Museum Minds? Museum Minds is a really awesome collaboration between Rainey Robison over there from Neptune Sugar and myself, Beth Houseworked, from Inspired Impact. We both worked in the museum field. We both are currently working in the museum field, and we kept getting asked all these questions. And we thought to ourselves, I bet you everybody would benefit from hearing the answers to these questions. So we put together this really cool professional networking group that everybody gets to listen to the answers together all at once. And we get an opportunity to meet some museum besties, things like that. Most months, for those of you who are new, veterans, thank you so much for your patience. For those of you that are new, our normal call is 25 to 30 minutes of some sort of focused topic or conversation, presentation, guest speaker, interview, something like that. So the first half of the call is usually something that you're listening and learning and being inspired. And then the second half of the call is usually networking and questions. Today, we're a little bit different just because we're doing the roundtable, where everybody just gets to popcorn ideas, thoughts, questions, hits, and misses. So normally it's a little bit different, but today we're having fun with a roundtable. So that's what it is. This is what it normally looks like as a summary. Not so much today, but it gives you an idea for next month. Who are we? Who are we and who are you, right? I'm Beth Housewort. I'm from Inspired Impact. I'm a museum consultant, and I'm also a coach for nonprofit professionals. After about 2 decades in the industry, I was ready to help out lots and lots of people. My counterpart and lovely lady, Rainey Robinson, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Rainey Robinson. My business is Neptune Sugar Marketing for the Arts. It's a marketing consulting agency specifically for arts and culture organizations, but I work with nonprofits and museums of all types as well. So thanks for being here today. It's really great to see everyone's faces.
Awesome. So good. So good. And then we have a question for you. This is something that we always like to do in the beginning, just to like get a little extra fun that's happening. Today's question comes to us from Claude.ai. I literally put in the prompt to the AI, what is a good icebreaker question for a Zoom meetup where people can answer in the chat? Make it unexpected and different. So the question today is, if you were a kitchen appliance, what would you be and why? Go ahead and answer in the chat, because it's just fun to do something weird, not just put your title of who you are, but if you were a kitchen appliance, what would you be? Rainey, do you want to contribute your answer?
Yes, earlier I said I would be the oven because I'm smoking.
That's right. You like to heat things up.
I'm really interested to see what people say. Like
I know.
I think it could be really funny.
KitchenAid mixer.
I like that.
There's multiple KitchenAid
I'm on
mixers.
fire. A milk
High
chocolate,
quality
love it.
mixing
Brownies.
ice cream maker. Scott, you are making, what is it again? Not Rocky Road, Mountain Mix, something. One of our previous questions was, what was the ice cream flavor that you would do? A kettle. Kyle, you're a man after my heart. I use mine multiple times a day. Food processor. Yes. Yeah. Brownies. Yes. Yes. Milk frother. Also something I use every day. Yes, Cindy, you're a storage person of many things. The refrigerator. I love it. Fantastic. Tin Roof Sunday. Ooh, Scott. Yes, I did remember. I was close. Oh, Keurig. Fantastic. Fantastic. So good. Well, now that we know you, or at least your favorite kitchen appliance, right? Let's do it. Let's do it here. Like I said, today our format's a little bit different, so we're going to go ahead and introduce next month's topic and that type of stuff now, just so we can shut the slides off when we get ready to chat. So just to give you all a preview of next month, we're doing fundraising. Finally, how many? Yes, Shayna, I saw those.
We've had a lot of requests.
We were inundated. So I just want to let you know that we really do listen and read every single one of those questions. When you register and you say, what are your questions for this month and what do you want to see in the future? Hands down, fundraising is one of the top answers for the future. So we have asked Hillary to come in. She's with Flying Whale Strategies, and she's specifically going to be talking about lean fundraising plans. So fundraising plans for small teams, fundraising plans that can be accomplished with not a ton of people, things like that. So really making sure that they're super effective and valuable as we move forward. So that's next month, August 14th. Make sure you register. The QR code is there. And of course, tomorrow, you're going to get an email from us with the link to register as well, so that you can go ahead and sign up for that and make sure it's on your calendar for August. All right. Also, we just introduced ourselves, but as always, we sponsor this awesome call. And if you ever want to chat with us a little bit more, We do discovery calls all the time with people, just chatting about the museum world, things like that. So if you ever want to book with us, there are our contact information, as well as I do a monthly museum engagement workshop. Some of the attendees are on this call right now. It's a great 4-part workshop series. I do it every single month. It's a paid workshop that is fantastic for frontline team members, floor team members, managers, directors, anybody that's involved with museum engagement. I also do really awesome pricing for Pack the House. So you can have your entire team attend together so that everybody's on the same page when it comes to it. So that's my next session is coming up in 2 weeks. So get your purchase orders ready. All right. I think that's it for the housekeeping and logistics of things, right? All right. Let me see how I can stop my screen share, and then we can get right down to it. Fantastic. Then everybody can be big on the screen. Fantastic. Lovely. Wonderful. All right. So today's focus is really about looking at 2024. And you can go a little bit beyond too if you've got some really good examples. Hits and misses this year. Who's got some really great things that they want to talk about? Or maybe some mishaps? I know we have a lot of people on the call today. So if you have something to contribute, go ahead and raise your hand with that little like hand raise icon down in reactions. You can raise your hand. Then it's going to give us the opportunity to kind of know how many people want to chat and about how much time we should give each person to do that. So go ahead and raise your hand if you have something awesome to contribute. Or if you want to chat with us a little bit. If not, I'm going to start calling on people because I was an elementary school teacher for a couple of years, and I have no problem with that. Anybody, fantastic. I queued people up, and you got an email from me. Sheena, yes. Fantastic. All right. Give us an example of what happened this year. You've had a bunch of things.
I've had a bunch of things happen. So I am the brand new executive director of Museums of Western Colorado. If you're not familiar, we are 3 different sites. So we have Museum of the West, which is history focused around Colorado Plateau. Cross Orchards, which is a working historic farm and orchard, and Dinosaur Journey, which is all about dinosaurs. So right when I came on board, the staff had been without leadership for some time, about 9 months, and they were doing their darndest just to keep the ship afloat. They were doing a great job, but everybody was working outside of their skill set. They they were doing a good job, but they were like, we don't know what to do. So they had planned a program out at Cross Orchards, which we have a huge historic apple packing barn out there. And they were like, wouldn't it be fun? And it's a great idea. They were going to do a barn dance. Well, barn dance sounds super awesome. And when you hear that you're going to have a barn dance, you have a lot of ideas in your head of what that's going to be like. There was a lot of interesting communication that happened within the staff and also to the community. So when barn dance got here, we realized that the dance floor that we ordered, because we weren't going to be able to dance in the barn because it's on the historic register and there's a lot of stuff we have to do to take care of this building. So we were going to be dancing right outside the barn, and people were really upset that they weren't dancing in the barn. People were upset that there wasn't a live band. They were upset that we were doing swing dancing lessons, and we did advertise that. And we ended up dancing in a gazebo because the dance floor that we ordered and had delivered was unsafe the way it got put together. So the team actually did a really great job of like pivoting and figuring out how to make it work, but we didn't fulfill the expectations of the community who was like coming to this event. And it was a really kind of a hard thing to hear. A lot of people had a great time, and people were like, we're just so excited to be here. It's great and so pretty out here, which was wonderful. So we did, you know, make some friends, but it was one of those moments of like, boy, you really got to make sure that you're being clear with what it is that you're offering your your audience. And it you know, we love the idea of doing the barn dance. So what we took away from that was, next year we're gonna do an opening dance, and we're not calling it a barn dance. We're actually spending some money and building out a really nice deck area that people can dance on, that's gonna actually connect our barn to the old bunkhouse. So we're gonna have something that's a little more you know, in tune with what it looks like out there. We're going to get a band, so people really wanted a live band. We're going to make sure we do that. It was a great way to figure out, you know, what not to do next time. So that was a big miss for us, and it was like the first thing that happened right as soon as I got here. So it was a really interesting miss, but what I loved, what I feel like would be a hit, what was a good thing, was just watching how the team came together to pivot and try to make it all work last minute. I had some people who worked really hard in the last like 2 hours right before this event started. And I was just really impressed with their dedication and that day to pull it off. So it was a hit and a miss.
Absolutely. And I have to say too, that like, you now have a new marketing manager too, that probably will help
Yeah.
out with mixed messaging.
We didn't have a marketing person when I got here, and we do now. So
right. Exactly. So your biggest takeaways are awesome team collaboration, learning for the future, changing things up. So good. A hit and miss together. Does anybody have questions for Sheena? Especially because she is outside the Children's Museum world. And many of us come from the Children's Museum world. So does anybody have questions for Sheena?
I have a question for unrelated to this. I was curious, excuse me, I believe you had said you were going to have a baseball team, your local baseball team visit. Did you do that, and how did that go?
it went really well.
Okay.
They're visiting again. So we have a minor league team that it's a feeder team for the Colorado Rockies. They're called the Jackalopes, and they're doing a lot to promote their games and stuff and grow their community. So they did a dino day, and we had them come out to the dinosaur museum and film, and they blasted it on their like TikTok and all their social media stuff. And we ended up doing the "Can you say the dinosaur name right?" actually at the baseball field. So, and we were just pulling people in from the crowd, and would do it in between innings, and they had it up on the big screen. So it was really fun. I didn't get to watch them film at the Dino Museum because we took them out to the dig. We do dinosaur digs. So if you guys ever want to come dig up real dinosaur bones with us, please call me. We'll get together.
And that's something that every Children's Museum visitor asks for. Like, where are the dinosaurs? Where are the dinosaurs? And we're like, go to Colorado.
We had an 8-year-old find an Apatosaurus skull. And now he's in high school. And so he just came and visited what he found. Like, it was really cool.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, so, and they're coming back they're doing rodeo day. So they're going to come to the History Museum and film here as well. So it was a good collaboration.
And just to give you all a little bit of backstory, a couple of months ago, Rainey did a presentation for this crew all about social media and getting really cool and fun and funky social media opportunities. And one of them was what was the guy's name,
It was
Rainey?
Will Ferrell at the Hammer Museum and Joe McHale sort of responding to contemporary art and not understanding it and it being really comical. So I love this idea of the baseball players trying to say the names of the dinosaurs and also that they were promoting you at the same time. So I love that.
And what a great opportunity to get like familiar faces in a totally different industry into your building then, and you're exploding the mailing list that it's going out to, which is probably a lot of new people that weren't there before. So awesome. Thank you for the update too. That was awesome. So good. All right, who's next? Who's next? Who has a great hit or miss from 2024? Give it to me.
I have another question for Shayna.
Yes, give it to us, Rochelle.
Great. So you were coming into a new team that I'm assuming didn't know you very well. Like, what are some strategies that you use to like build trust with your team, especially coming in during like the hectic time that you did?
That's a really great question. And Rochelle, it's still an ongoing process, right? The first thing that I led with at a meeting with my entire staff, we've only got 25 staff members, which seems kind of crazy for 3 locations, but we sat down and I, provided my background and what my vision was, and just really left everything open. Like, you can ask me anything at all, like about my vision, about my personal life. You can ask me about my background, like whatever, like just ask. And then that was really good because it got everybody kind of talking. And I shared a bunch of silly things so they realized like I'm a person. I'm not someone who's scary, who's coming in to like tell everyone to leave. After that, I met with everyone individually. So I set up quick 30-minute meetings with every single staff person. And I asked them to bring their job description, and I asked them to bring their, so to look at their job description and also write on there all the stuff that they're doing that's not on their job description. And then I asked them to bring me what their vision is for their position and for the museum. So it was like we kind of went through kind of rapid fire so I could get to know them. A lot of them ran like 45 minutes instead of 30 minutes, but it was a really good way for me to get that initial meeting. And then I also focused on kind of restructuring the senior leadership team because there wasn't anything in place. They were doing all staff meetings where they were talking about information that not everybody needed to know. So it was kind of wasting some people's time and making them feel like, it wasn't worthwhile and that the leadership didn't know what was going on. So as I started to restructure these things, it started to build trust. And I've been a big advocate for making sure that everyone has a voice. So I've been making sure that at the end of every meeting that we have, that I'm leaving room for questions and answers or concerns or ideas or whatever it is that, somebody wants to bring up. And so far it's been working really well. And when people have ideas, like I'm listening, and, I've used a lot of the ideas that people have given me. And we've also started recognizing people for that. So I don't know if any of you guys use Slack, but it's not my favorite platform in the world, but it's what we've been using. But we do a hashtag kudos on there. And so we're just constantly like praising each other for awesome things that we did or silly things that happened or whatever. And that's really done a lot to kind of grow the team together. Last night we did a big customer service training where I got everybody working together in groups, and the feedback I've been getting is like, we really love doing stuff like this. Like, I like getting up and working with someone who I, don't get to work with normally. So building that has kind of helped to build the trust. I hope I answered your question well enough.
No, that's really great. Thank you.
You're
And I
welcome.
think too, that's, you know, it's a good representation of how to build culture in an organization, and knowing that you're also coming into an existing culture. I think that there's probably a lot of us that either have gotten a promotion in our space that put us into a different seniority level, or we're anticipating a promotion, something like that, that those are all good tips to take into consideration, whether you're an executive director or a manager or even at a coordinator level. Sometimes it's tricky when you go from a quote unquote subordinate to then being a leader in the more formal sense on the org chart. You can be a leader at any level, of course, but good tips, good tips. All right. Questions, hits, misses. Who wants to go next? Yes, Daniel.
I could go.
Give us your ideas.
Um, so I kind of akin this a little bit to, my favorite conference session of all time, Mistakes Were Made. That
Yes,
is one of
exactly. And
my
that's what I was thinking of when we did this. If you're an
absolutely.
ACM interactivity goer, there is consistently a session there that's called Mistakes Were Made. And then people are actually given a trophy as like the biggest mistake maker of the year.
And
Unfortunately,
my
we don't have a trophy today, but we are talking mistakes.
you, you know me, I can make a trophy pretty quickly.
You
Um,
can. You can. You can make some really awesome ones.
Um, so the best thing about Mistakes Were Made is that you get to hear all sorts of different perspectives from different parts of the organization and size levels of the organization. And it can be anything from marketing snafus to exhibits, logistics, facilities, birthday party, it's gone awry. Um, and so in thinking about this, I have an older story and a newer story. And so I'm an exhibits professional. My background is logistics, maintenance, all those fun things to keep making the beeps go boop. Um, but to give you some specific examples of misses and learns, uh, the first one is the logistics example. So recently we had two of our exhibits in the shop at the same time. It's not a commonality. Usually we're refurbing one at a time, sending it back out and through. But in this case, both of the exhibits picked up for delivery to the next host site on the same day, one at 9, one at noon. So about 9:15 rolls around, the first truck arrives, and we assumingly start loading it with the exhibit that we thought was going in the truck. And as we were leaving, the truck driver said, "Okay, well, will I see you in Colorado?" Um, to which I replied, "You're going to Spokane, Washington, aren't you?" And he said, "No, I'm going to Colorado." It was our noon truck driver who had shown up 3 hours in advance, and our early truck driver was nowhere to be heard of. And we had loaded the wrong exhibit into the wrong truck. So, right as he's leaving, after about a 45-minute load on a pretty warm day, um, we have to do it again. And flip it out and put it back into place and actually get him where he needs to be going, because I don't think the powerhouse in Durango, Colorado wanted a surprise exhibit. um, and so got him taken care of, and then finally have the wherewithal to be like, where was the driver who's supposed to be here at 9 o'clock in the morning? Turns out he was broken down on the side of the road. Uh, and didn't show up to our shop until 9 o'clock the next day. Um, so this is one of those lessons of, mind your P's and Q's. Don't try to assume too much. I'm an excellent logistics planner, project manager. And so I'm doing well advanced work, talking head of the snake, trying to make sure that everything is tight. And I just assumed a 9:15 driver was the 9 o'clock driver. And it could have been real bad. I am very proud of myself that I have never had an exhibit arrive late. I've only had them arrive early. That was my fault. I delivered an exhibit about a week in advance from their expected delivery time early on in my career. That was a lot of fun for that site, trying to call in their fire department to get them to help set up the exhibit because they couldn't have staff come in at that time.
You're lucky that they actually had room for it. So often in museums, when you get a delivery, it's because you finished taking everything out of the exhibit hall like 2 days before the delivery comes, if not 1 day before.
It was a library. We were packing things into little hallways. As an exhibits and logistics professional, you tend to have a lot of near misses throughout the course of your career. So I've been in museums for 12 years and in logistics and installation and production management for 17 now. So I have stories that can go days and days and days. But the other quick one that I'll tell you all about is never defer a $40 fix. And I say this specifically for the Children's Museum folks out there, but for everyone. If you're blessed enough to have a technical and facility staff who are about proactive responses, try to listen to them as much as possible and fix it into the budget, because it may explode the budget later. And the example of that is, I know probably many of y'all have seen the pull out how long is your large intestine exhibit, where you pull it out and see that it's as large as a fire truck or what have you. Most of those units are built into a wall. The one that we had was standalone, so that we wanted modular access in one of our museums. And so to have the ability to have all the exhibits kind of move around as needed based on event usage and things of that nature. And the way that this works is, as you pull out the rope, it raises the counterweight. And so you're actually changing the center of gravity. So when it's down below, you can't push it over. It's got about 1,200 pounds down at about 18-inch level off the ground. But when you pull it up, you're raising it up to about 36 inches off the ground. And so one day we hear a countdown. And if you ever hear a countdown in the Children's Museum setting, go running. Something is happening that you need to stop. It is just one of those life lessons, and I love seeing everyone nod their heads. But so we hear 3, 2, 1, and the loudest boom I've ever heard shook the entire museum. This exhibit component had been pulled down by a group of third graders who had realized that there was a little tilt going, and it looks like a tug of war. Luckily, none of them were in the impact zone, because it could have been a lot worse. We got 2 L brackets. We picked it back up off the floor. It was fine. Somehow the rope had protected every piece of graphic from just getting crushed. Picked it up, got 2 L brackets, screwed it into the wall. Thing has never moved again. Don't defer a $40 fix. And so the thing that I'll say about that, our facilities manager had brought that up about 5 months prior.
Oh, and that's like the don't assume side of things, or over engineer things.
Don't
Like,
ever let
you
anyone
know-
accuse you of overbuilding something.
Yes,
Because as we have
fantastic.
seen, the unintended exploration of certain exhibit experiences can be dramatic.
And I have to say too, like, in agreement, I worked in exhibits and education for so long that when I started thinking about hits and misses over the course of my career too, a majority of them were exhibits based. Like, the day that you bring the traveling exhibit crates out of storage and they have mold.
Mm-hmm.
The day you drive up on the install of an exhibit and you see a giant kiosk piece that's this big hanging off a lift gate that's this big with a pickup truck underneath the other side of it. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Yes.
When you get an oddly sized truck that can't fit it, like all of a sudden a 98-inch cap truck, and it's supposed to be 110 on the top, and you can't fit any of your exhibits in. So you try to tilt them in.
Yes. You have an exhibits truck arrive with, box crates, and then the next row has one that's like this against the side of a semi trailer, which is
You know something went wrong there.
super enforced. Yeah, crazy. Exhibits examples are always fun. always fun. There are amazing hits, but there are many, many misses. Sheena, do you have a question?
I do. Daniel, we're getting ready to onboard a brand new facilities manager.
Mhm.
And they are not coming from the museum world, and I feel like they might benefit from a little chat with you. Would you be willing to do that?
That is a service that I extend to every member of this community. Absolutely.
That would be great.
I would rather have people not have to experience the same lessons that I had to. So yeah, absolutely. Feel free to connect
Yeah.
us.
Awesome.
Deferred maintenance is something that we suffer from, and we're trying to right the ship, and we're doing a great job the last year. But I think they would really benefit from just chatting with you about some things.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Oh, the power of museum minds. It's happening. And that's part of the reason too, like having your name up on the screen and where you're from, things like that. If you want to go ahead and put your email address in the chat, if you're open to having people reach out to you with information. And it's a big reason why we did this roundtable too, because there's so many people that attend our calls that are amazing people. People that I've known throughout my travels in the industry, or I've worked closely with them, I've coached them, I've taught them through workshops, all kinds of people. There's a ton of people that Rainey knows that come to these too. So it's nice. And that was a big reason why we did Museum Minds too, for all industry museum folks, because when children's museum folks come into the picture and their exhibits people have to be on high alert at all times, those history and dinosaur museums are going to learn a ton and be proactive because they are over engineering and ready for those kids, right? Oh my goodness. So if you're open, go ahead and put your email address in the chat so that people can reach out to you too. Amanda, you also come to us from outside of the Children's Museum world. So give us a little bit of background and then your hits and misses.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you so much
Oh,
for
we can
having-
hardly hear you. I don't know. Mine is super quiet.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, it's much better now.
Okay, wonderful. I'll come a little bit closer to the screen. Beth, thank you so much for having me. It's lovely to meet you via our friend Laura. I have a background in fashion. So I spent 4 years in Italy. I studied Italian tailoring and pattern making at an Italian university and worked in couture thereafter. Worked in design for over 15 years. I do consulting now, and I have a lot of dear friends within the museum industry itself. But I wanted to share a story from a friend that I asked because they're at the Met Museum in New York, and they have much better stories than I do. So if you're familiar with the exhibition that Anna Wintour puts on, the costume exhibition at the Met, this year, the theme was Sleeping Beauties. And what was fascinating about this year's exhibition was Sleeping Beauties was in reference to these old garments that they were using that were quite literally falling apart. And so the preservation, quite a few of them could only be laid out in caskets in order to maintain their structure and still be able to appreciate these sleeping beauties, but in a form that that would not have gravity be ripping them apart because they're quite literally too delicate to touch. But there are quite a few of them that were on display that they wanted to be on mannequins. And so the solution that they came up with in order to not rip the fabric apart, were building these mylar cones in order to put underneath the garment that was on the mannequin so they could rest and not have too much of a pull from gravity. And I thought that was quite ingenious, especially for so many garments that had this transparency within the fabric. So you could truly see these garments come back to life that theoretically could no longer be really seen. So that was that was the story I wanted to share about the ingenuity with displaying these garments. But regardless, I
Awesome.
would love to share this hub with a couple of other my friends who are in the museum world because I'm adjacent. And yes, that's my story I wanted to share.
I love it. And I'm sure Daniel can mimic this as well, and any of our other exhibits folks too. The ingenuity and innovation that comes from exhibits minds is phenomenal. Like trying to solve these problems that we have while still maintaining, the relevance of an exhibit, the objective, the learning opportunity within there, but making it look as if nothing is there. Like being this really amazing, one of my old executive directors always used to call us education ninjas. And I love it. I love it. I use it in one of my workshops too. I do a whole hour-long workshop about becoming an education ninja. And I feel like exhibits people are that too, because they are creating these really amazing structures that people never really see. And they're like hiding in the background purposefully so that the piece can be the center of attention. What a
Yes,
cool thing.
it's so true. And if it's done well, they're never seen.
Yes.
It's fascinating and
Right. So good. Well, welcome to the call, Amanda. We're glad to have you here. And yes, feel free to invite all your friends. We're happy to have them.
I had
All
a
right.
question, sorry, for Amanda. Excuse me. So did the pieces end up being upright or were they still laying down? They just had become more 3D.
Oh, great question. There were a few pieces that were laying down in a casket
Mhm.
display because they couldn't be put on a mannequin, but the ones that had to use the mylar were on mannequins.
Oh, interesting. Wow.
And also the play on like a literal casket.
Yes.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Way
Yeah.
to take the theme to the next level. Like dead sleeping beauties, like in a casket. Wow, that's cool. That's cool. All right, next up, we have a few more minutes. Questions, hits, misses, tell us. We're eager. There's got to be somebody out there that has something. I know there is. I know there is. Scott, you always have something. Why are you not coming on? You must have lost your voice.
No, I'm here. I always try to give some space. I talk too much. I will share a miss for us that happened yesterday. So nice and fresh. So I'm with National Children's Museum in Washington, D.C. That piece of context will become important in a moment. So we recently made a decision to expand our hours. We're usually dark on Tuesdays. So it's when exhibits are getting cleaned, we're doing trainings, things like that. For the summertime, like many others, we decided to offer Tuesdays for July and August. So our marketing team very diligently got the word out on all the travel sites, in the emails, on our social, that we were open all of these Tuesdays. And then you might have heard in the news that the NATO summit is going on here in Washington, D.C., and that is taking place partly in the same building that we share with the rest. We are part of the what is called the Ronald Reagan building. So part of the NATO summit is taking place in that building. And so I'm sure you can kind of see where I'm going. We were sitting in the last management team meeting before our first Tuesday, and we had just wrapped up the agenda item about Tuesdays and all the things that people have been putting in. And our exhibits manager was sitting next to me and leans over with an email from our contact inside the Ronald Reagan building explaining that essentially Secret Service was closing the Ronald Reagan building on our second summer Tuesday. Our marketing team had just hit send on all of our emails and published everything. So we were closed yesterday, not by our own choosing, but we were closed yesterday, and our exhibits manager was still intrepidly trying to get in the building to do all of their cleaning and repairs. And I was just talking to them a short time ago. They apparently were waiting in a Secret Service checkpoint for about 2.5 hours in the heat. We're going through a horrendous heat wave here in DC. So we're waiting for Secret Service to finish sweeping all of Pennsylvania Avenue, essentially, for any security risks. And eventually got in the, Langley. She was hanging out.
Oh no, it was Langley.
On Pennsylvania, yeah. So that was a big miss for us. If anybody's in DC for any of the other Tuesdays in July and August, we're going to be open, but just not yesterday. So mistakes were made, indeed.
Oh, I know that feeling as well. My past museum, I used to work at the Children's Museum of Naples, and we too shared property with another entity. So we were a long-term land lease on the property of our county park. And the county park would regularly host events, and we wouldn't know about it. So one of the days too, like arriving at work, the entire parking lot of the Children's Museum is filled with motorcycles. And we were like, what is going on? Like, there's no room even for our staff to park. The beauty of the whole situation is that they were having a ride for babies, March of Dimes or something like that. And it was a very early morning ride. So they were gone by the time we opened the museum. But again, it was one of those like panic moments that we're like, well, what are we going to do now? The parking lot is completely full of motorcycles. And who knows who's driving those motorcycles, right? So yes, scheduling can be a nightmare of sorts. That's for sure. Oh, goodness. And poor Langley. Yes. She couldn't get in and she just had to wait. Oh. So, all right. More examples. Rainey, do you have anything good? This was obviously my pick.
Right. Nothing amazing, but kind of going back to what you were saying, that behind the scenes, sometimes, hot glue is holding things on the wall, you just don't really know. Or I was working with a gallery and we had no security, and we had, we sometimes have the strangest things arrive. Like it was this giant thing of tumbleweed that had been dipped in silver. And, it was actually really expensive. Like somebody could probably just pop a piece off and take it with them, so trying to, manage things like that. Where did you go? Oh, sorry, you moved on my screen. So yeah, I just think it's really interesting, again, kind of what goes on behind the scenes and how you're trying to kind of like seal the cracks and make sure nobody is seeing, again,
Well,
what's
it's like that veil of
Yeah.
mysticism. Like
Yeah.
you always have to, and again, I feel like I have an example for everything.
Right.
But like in our world, it was always like when we had a visiting character, we never called it a costume. We always would say, you're going to go and play with the character, or you're going to be the helper for, Pete the cat or something like that. We would never use the other word because we never wanted to make the mistake when we were on the floor with kids and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to wear the costume later. The veil of mysticism is burnt if you say something like that in front of a kid. Oh yeah, I have to be a helper for the dragon. Oh, we had the dragon from Dragons Love Tacos. Fantastic. Pete the cat. Oh my gosh, they're so good. They're so good.
Or you have a multimedia exhibition, with flashing lights, and then you think, well, maybe we should put a sign here, a warning, and just kind of, I think everybody's kind of winging it to a certain extent, So
It does
that would probably
happen.
be a good idea. So, but
When
Jessica,
we first,
you have, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Jessica.
Go ahead.
Jessica, you have your hand up. Fantastic. Thank you. Let us
This
know where you're from too.
Yes, sorry, I didn't put that. I'm from the Miriam P. Brenner Children's Museum. We're in downtown Greensboro, North Carolina. And we actually, this is our 25th anniversary year, and we're celebrating it this, thank you, this month in 25 different ways. And one of those ways is actually going to be this Friday. And just maybe any advice, because this could be a hit or miss. My boss, my CEO, suggested we do a 25-cent admission day because 25 years. And so it's only from 5 to 8 p.m. because we usually do a discounted day at that time every Friday. So just for accessibility, we are doing this. And I don't know if anyone else has done such an extreme low cost. And what do you have as tips for us going into that?
I love it that the call is also a preventative hit or miss opportunity. Yes, Daniel says in the comments, 1 million staff members. Yes, be ready for your staff. My other suggestions, know your capacity and not just fire marshal capacity, a comfort capacity. Have people designated, like your manager on duty or whoever it might be, that actively is walking the floor, knowing that there is such thing as like comfort capacity, because you can have like high energy kids and not as many, but then it gets kind of crazy. Or the whole museum can be quiet and everybody will be pretty chill. Then you can have more people. It might be raining outside, so then it ends up being that you have less square footage to have the experience. So there's not going to be a hard and fast number for capacity. So I'm telling you all of this because I joined the museum in the inaugural year and was there for 2 of the highest record-breaking days. And those were some of the things that we always had to think about, and also have a plan ready so that whether it's going across the walkie, things like that, have line spaces available and ready. And the best part, be ready with line entertainment, so that if people do have to stand in line, there's something for them to do. We loved getting, oh shoot, I can't remember what it's called now. The scratch off stuff, like it's black and then you scratch it and it's colorful. If they're outside, it's fantastic because it does make dust, but it's something that takes a little bit of time to do. Or like some sort of page that has origami opportunities, or a family game that can be played in line. But have a staff member out there ready, even if they're playing I Spy or something like that, so that knowing you have kids, they're not going to want to stand in line. Oh, I love it. The comment section is going crazy. Let's see. Have
really
a plan for when you reach capacity. Anticipate that it might make guests upset if they have to wait. Yes. Line entertainment. Yes.
And our capacity for our museum is kind of outrageous. I'm not sure if that's the case for most places, because if you actually put in that many people into the building, it would be uncomfortable. And that's the truth. So I think that's a really great idea.
Yes,
So
fantastic.
I have
quick tip,
You can tell that
about
Rainie's not a children's museum person because she says balloon animals, and we outlawed balloons in our museum because they're choking hazards. So
Oops, sorry.
if you're at a history or science or art museum, balloon animals are fantastic. Not at a children's museum. All right, somebody else was saying something. I'm sorry I so rudely interrupted.
It was me. It's okay. We had a tip. I just have a tip for managing is to make sure you have when you do reach that capacity, that you have kind of the same 1 or 2 people giving the exact same messaging. So if you come up with a script kind of beforehand and really just kind of repeating it word for word, because you will have people who will ask multiple staff members to just try to get in. And then when you're having different messaging, it just becomes like an issue. So come up with like whatever that script is, like, hey, we've reached capacity. We're let you in when we can, or whatever it is. But to be like super, super consistent. And I always just find it easier to have, the same person or 2 people kind of rotating out there just to be so consistent. It will limit anger.
If I can
It
jump
might
in.
even be worth it too to post something on social media the day before that says something like, because our admissions are so low and we're expecting big crowds, we may get to capacity and there may be a line. This is the procedure we'll go through if and when we have a line, but we are happy to have you all come and, things like that. But knowledge is power.
That is great. Yeah, no, I appreciate all these tips. I think that'll be helpful. We've done like $2 days, but this is definitely the cheapest we've done. So thank you.
Awesome. 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 All right, let's see. Kat, did you have something since you went off mute?
No, it's like, yeah, I was just gonna jump in because I stole this directly from you, Beth. So we had our first free event in maybe 3 years. So we were sponsored, it was completely free admission. And I remember that tidbit about not apologizing, but just restating what the policy is. So that's kind of where we went with that. And so we had all of our front desk staff know, like, this is what the procedure is. It's not like I'm sorry that this happened to you. This was what the expectations were, and this is what's gonna happen. And that worked really well. So just sort of just restating what our policy is, or in this case, our capacity is XYZ. We'll let you in when we have space.
Yes. So you can see who has participated in my workshop so far, because the language is educate and redirect. Because I used to work for someone who would apologize for everything. And I was like, I am not sorry that the museum has a policy that you can't bring your weapon in the museum. No, I am not sorry. No, I'm not sorry. The museum policy is that we do not accept weapons here in the museum. What you can do is go ahead and take your piece back out to your car, or we have a safe that we can keep it in the office, or something like that, or don't take liability for it. But educate and redirect. No need to say sorry if you don't actually need to say sorry. Right. All right. Amanda, it was great having you. You had to hop off. All right. Saban, how do you say your first name? Give it to me.
Siobhan.
Awesome. One more time.
Siobhan.
Siobhan, lovely. All right, tell us what you have. We have just 1 or 2 minutes more.
Yes. No, I was just gonna hop in on the whole free day thing. I'm at the Children's Museum of Indianapolis. I used to work the floor during the pandemic. We have free days throughout the year, and then also with pandemic, we had no limited capacity. I second everything that folks have been saying, but also if you have a queue line situation that you often need, either somewhere inside your building or outside your building, prep that in advance. And if you have different spaces that have different capacities, that have different queue lines, make your plan for if your queue lines have to run into each other. Because that happens to us every spring break. We get really high visitation, and some of our gallery spaces are across from each other or next to each other. So you might have the queue line for one that has to then hop the entrance of another or go past each other. But yeah, staff up, radio up. A phrase we use is a customer service assist. So if someone's, really losing it at one of your floor staff and they need a manager, we'll radio, can I please have a customer service assist? After you've done all these things, you've delivered the policy, you've, been kind, you've redirected. Sometimes you just need some backup.
Yeah, much better than saying, I have an angry customer at the front desk on a walkie where everybody can hear.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Also think about queue lines that are outside the building and parking areas. That was one thing for us too, is that we thankfully had a walkway that skirted around the entire museum and everybody could be on that walkway as opposed to, you know, snaking out into where the cars will be. And with little children, you know, got to watch out for that too. Well, awesome. It is 3:01, and I have to say that I am so excited that this call went so well, and I learned so many things about all kinds of hits and misses, which is so good. We are looking forward to next month's fundraiser conversation. Again, we're going to go ahead and send it out on email tomorrow so that you can sign up if you haven't already. Because if you were part of, I don't know, I think I sent an email out earlier too that was like had a little hint link in there. But we're looking forward to that. Thank you so much for all of you that contributed to the conversation today. I'm so, so thankful for it. And maybe we'll do roundups every couple months. I think it'll be really fun to just like get to know everybody and be able to have this kind of interface open conversation. I agree. I agree. So good. Well, thank you again for coming. Museum Minds
everyone.
people, our museum besties. We love it. All right. Have an awesome afternoon. We will see you next month.